On Sunday evening, an historic time at number 10, as Labour's first ever Prime Minister, Ramsay MacDonald, prepares to take office.
What are we going to do, Ishmael? All our furniture put together would hardly fill this one room.
What do we call you then?
Oh, I've been doing some research into that. You call me Prime Minister, and I call you by your surnames or your office.
Oh, that a damned rigmarole.
It occurs to me.
Yes, sir.
When my ministers attend court ceremonials, they're expected to wear court dress.
Yes, I'm aware of that.
Now, the full fig costs, I'm told, £73. A monstrous sum, especially for men of little capital.
Indeed, sir.
Tell them all I shall require is evening dress and knee breeches.
I shall do so.
And tell them they can hire that from Moss Brothers for twopence halfpenny.
Ian Richardson stars as Ramsay MacDonald, the Premier who shopped at the Co-op, in this week's tale of number 10, Sunday at 9:10 on ITV.
Jeanery clothing down sale. Now on with straight leg jumbo and needle cords, $3.99. Straight leg jeans, $4.99. Knitwear reduced to cost price or less with chunky hand knits from $6.99. £20 off all stonewashed leather jackets. V-neck and crew neck sweaters from $1.99. Fashion t-shirts, tops, jackets, trousers and shirts reduced to less than cost price. This is your last chance. These prices can never be repeated. At Jeanery's clothing down sale. Now on at Charles Street and Fargate, Sheffield, St Sepulchre Gate, Doncaster, The Pavements, Chesterfield, Bond Street Shopping Centre, Leeds, and Darley Street, Bradford.
There's a lot more than oil locked away in Britain's offshore store cupboard. There's gas. Natural gas for cooking and heating. Liquid gas for firing bricks, china and glass. Ethane for making paints, plastics and detergents. And other petroleum liquids to keep you on the move. Esso's massive investment will produce around 16% of Britain's natural gas, which is good for you, good for us, and good for the future of Britain.
Sorry, not today, thank you.
But I've got some very good things.
Oh, let's have a look then.
These are very nice, madam. Dish mops, pink and yellow.
No thanks, but I would like these.
Mild, green, fairy, liquid. But why?
Because fairy gives me all these gentle bubbles. Help keep my hands soft. Feel.
Very nice, madam. What else can I tell you?
That my fairy bubbles get all my dirty dishes clean.
I've been thinking, madam. I've got just the thing for you.
A box of rings.
They're very special. Only for ladies with soft hands.
Now hands that do dishes can feel soft as your face with mild green fairy liquid.
Today's cleaning problems are as tough as ever, but sometimes today's surfaces aren't as tough. That's why you need new Jif.
What a difference new Jif makes.
New concentrated Jif copes with the tough cleaning problems.
What a difference new Jif makes.
And now Jif has a smoother, creamier formula to care for today's more sensitive surfaces.
What a difference new Jif makes.
And new Jif has a fresher fragrance, so you can even smell the difference.
What a difference new Jif makes. What a difference new Jif makes.
The less a car has holding it back, the less fuel it needs to drive it forward. The new Audi 100. The most aerodynamic production car in the world.
Which magazine do 9 million people read every week? This one, because it offers a choice of over 180 hours of television and exclusive stories about stars and programs. Read about Brass, a major new drama series. Find out who these beautiful women chose as their Men of the Year. See another side of Alf Roberts, who would rather be Errol Flynn. And pick up a bargain, the luxury of cashmere for under £50.
There's so much more than TV Times in TV Times magazine.
Are you bringing up a child on your own? It doesn't matter if you're not the parent, but if you're getting child benefit, there is another allowance you can claim. It's called One Parent Benefit. Ask at your Social Security office for more details.
In the summer of 1930, a group of young Englishmen arrived at a remote Eskimo settlement on the virtually unexplored coast of East Greenland. We were members of the British Arctic Air Route Expedition, and our leader was a charismatic young explorer, Gino Watkins. Now, 50 years later, 2 of us have come back.
Recollections of those Greenland days at 10:30 tonight on ITV.
Yes, this is Yorkshire Television. And now it's time for the news from ITN at 10 o'clock.
Police cadets unearth bones and clothing in North London. Mr. Peter Walker and animal researchers get letter bombs. The police round up illegal videos. The inner cities get £300 million to spend. And the Green and Peace women dance round the law. Good evening. The police search for the remains of up to 13 bodies was stepped up again today at a house by Cricklewood in North London. The police said they had found a significant amount of human bone. They also discovered an old checkbook and men's clothing. Yesterday, a jawbone was found with 2 teeth in it. 30 police cadets, boys and girls between the ages of 16 and 18, were brought in to the search today.
The cadets arrived mid-morning, 17 years old and fresh from the police training school in North London. They set to work straight away on their hands and knees, scratching at the surface soil on the wasteland behind the house. And it was clear from the beginning they were making a lot of finds. What looked like dozens of pieces of bone and clothing were being collected in plastic bags. The bones were being turned up almost every minute.
We found a small piece of jaw and some teeth attached to it in the rear garden of the premises at Melrose Avenue. And this morning I found a significant amount of property, in particular quite a large consignment of human bones, in particular a large piece of thigh bone in the region of about 6 inches.
Are these bones going to make it more easy for you to identify possible victims?
I don't know, but obviously the more we find, it must assist the pathologist in his subsequent findings.
So it might be made easier?
It may well do, yes.
The search continues tomorrow and should last until the weekend. Carol Barnes, News at 10 in North London.
Give them a piece of bone and pathologists say they can tell whether it comes from a man or a woman, how old the individual was at the time of death, the height and build of the person, even racial characteristics. But all that depends on having a large enough piece of bone to examine.
This case was that of a person who had been found in a skeletal state some months after death, and 2 of the most useful bones from my point of view were these at the back of the neck, the uppermost part of the neck, and these cuts in the bone indicated that an attempt had been made at decapitation.
With smaller bone fragments, identification is much more difficult. Cell sections can be used to discover whether the bone is human, but the best evidence of all is dental evidence. If they have access to the original dental records, pathologists can make a positive identification on the basis of just 1 or 2 teeth. In North London, the police have been finding some dental evidence. It's being taken to the Hornsey mortuary for examination by a Home Office pathologist. And staff at the London Hospital's Medical College will examine skulls, jaws, and even fragments of teeth before the painstaking process of dental identification is concluded. John Underwood, News at 10 at the London Hospital.
5 letter bombs have been sent to different destinations round the country. One of them went to the Agriculture Minister, Mr. Peter Walker. All were intercepted, and it's thought they all came from an animal rights group. In London, besides the one for Mr. Walker, a letter bomb was discovered in the post room in Canada House. Others turned up in Cambridge, at an animal research centre just outside Bristol, and at a furrier's in Manchester.
The first device arrived in the post room of the Ministry of Agriculture in London and was taken away for tests. There was no note. A mile away at Canada House, the same experience, but this time a note naming the mysterious animal rights militia, an organisation neither the police nor the animal lobby knows much about. Then came the letter bomb, intercepted by staff at a hospital in Cambridge and addressed to controversial transplant surgeon Professor Roy Calm. He defended research on animals in a recent interview.
I think that provided one is always aware of the fact that animals can suffer, their suffering should be made an absolute minimum in order to achieve the medical knowledge that's required.
At Bristol University's School for Vets, another package. They learn to operate on animals here. Today, police evacuated the building before blowing up the device in a controlled explosion. Recognised animal groups say the militia may be out to discredit animal welfare. But whoever they are, after today's events, the police are taking the matter very seriously indeed.
The government has launched a £280 million scheme to improve work and leisure in the inner cities. Only £40 million will come from public funds. The rest will be from private investment. The Environment Secretary, Mr. Tom King, told MPs the work will start in April. He said it would save or create 4,000 jobs, many in construction. 11 areas, 3 of them London boroughs, are to be added to the list of places entitled to special help with urban decay. They include Blackburn, Coventry and Rochdale. In another category, 46 projects will qualify for derelict grants, including an overhaul job on Workington Steelworks and reclamation of derelict areas in the northwest. And another 41 projects will qualify for development grants for converting run-down buildings for industry, housing or sports centres. Labour's environment spokesman, Mr. Gerald Kaufman, said the 4,000 jobs to be saved or created were nothing to the 20,000, he said, the construction industry alone had lost. And the Liberal MP for Liverpool Edge Hill, Mr. David Alton, called the new grants cosmetics and candy floss.
The inquiry to settle the water dispute could be sitting by Thursday and report after one day. The unions and the employers met at the arbitration service, ACAS, again today, for 7 hours. When they broke up a short time ago, they said all the terms of reference were agreed. An ACAS statement said the inquiry would have the final say on the dispute. No further substantive negotiations were intended once the findings were known. The chairman and members of the 3-man inquiry have still to be named. That's expected tomorrow. As the union's negotiating chairman left ACAS, he said he was content. Alistair Stewart spoke to him.
Is the absence of the word binding in the agreement a victory for the trade union side?
The statement means what it says, no more and no less.
Westminster City Council tonight announced that it is giving permission to private contractors to dig up roads to repair water mains, but the council would want contractors to indemnify them against any possible legal action. The Thames Water Authority said tonight that most union members who work for private contractors would refuse to do anything that could be considered as strike-breaking. And there's fresh concern in the Manchester area tonight about higher lead levels in water since the strike. Half a dozen areas are affected, including Hyde, Stalybridge and Dukinfield. The employers are asking the striking water workers to lime the water.
Standpipes have already been erected in one area of Manchester because of a rise in the lead levels. Tonight, the problem has spread. Now, many thousands of homes in 6 boroughs of the city may be affected because of the water workers' refusal to lime the supply. Liming neutralizes the acidity in the water. In older homes, that acid is dissolving lead piping. In this street, one house was found to have 20 times the safe level of lead in its water. The water authorities immediately erected standpipes to bypass the supply. But as the problem increases, they say that policy will be impossible to continue. But at the moment, they say there's no real danger.
Providing people follow our advice, flushing the water first, then there is no danger to people, and we're in full consultation with the medical authorities on this.
But if they can prove to us that there is a problem, and we will need evidence from outside experts, say from the community physician or the some other environmental health departments, then we will put the case to our members, and I'm sure that they would want to respond, but they will need convincing.
Lead is known to be a health risk, especially to pregnant women and children. But the water authorities emphasise that if several pints of water are run off before use, any danger will be removed. Michael Macmillan, News at 10 in Manchester.
In Northern Ireland, police have seized 40,000 suspected pirate videotapes in raids on video shops throughout the province. They removed the entire stock of dozens of shops. They've not charged anyone yet and say it may be weeks before they've examined and catalogued the whole lot.
Over 200 police took part in what was one of the biggest ever crackdowns on the video pirates anywhere in the United Kingdom. The police, who've been planning the swoops for weeks now, say Ulster's a goldmine for the pirates, who it's thought are costing the film companies £1 million a year in lost revenue. The Precision Plan Fraud Squad raids were carried out simultaneously this morning on 25 shops throughout the province, half of them in Belfast. The police spent up to 8 hours in many of the shops, clearing them of their entire stock. The seized tapes, it's reckoned there could be as many as 40,000 of them, arrived by the van load all day at police headquarters in Belfast.
Conservative estimates would support the contention that over 50% of the total video market is involved either with piracy or copying tapes, and that's a very large slice of the market.
What sort of money are we talking about here?
Oh, you're talking about very, very substantial sums. Certainly in the United Kingdom context, many millions.
During their searches, the police also uncovered a number of what they call video factories, where the latest movies are recorded before distribution to the pirate dealers across the province. No arrests were made during the day-long raids. Police say video experts will examine all the tapes to establish if they're illegal copies before it's decided just who to prosecute. Ivan Little for News at 10, Belfast.
60 more women demonstrators broke into the Greenham Common Air Base this morning to protest against cruise missiles. They were quickly removed by the police. 41 other women appeared in court in Newbury following a similar break-in last month. Outside, a crowd of anti-nuclear protesters gathered to support the defendants.
It was a bitterly cold morning, but in spite of that, the supporters of the Greenham women arrived early. By 10 o'clock, there were about 300 outside, singing, dancing and chanting. There were plenty of police about, too, in case of trouble, and at one stage, a group of officers found themselves surrounded.
Inside the courtroom, the atmosphere was more like that of a carnival than of legal proceedings. Before the magistrates came in, the women started to sing and held up a chain of paper dolls with the words, "To every woman who wants peace, good luck, love and peace," written across it. As the charge was read out, breach of the peace caused by scaling the perimeter fence and entering the base by force, there were cries of lies, lies, and all through the prosecution's opening statement, the women continually interrupted. Eventually, the magistrates warned them about contempt of court. After lunch, they came back laden with flowers and cards sent in by well-wishers. 5 of the defendants have chosen to represent themselves. One of the police officers alleged that he'd been pushed over by 2 women, and he pointed them out in court. He said he'd identified them, one by their coat and the other by her hat. Both defendants denied they were wearing either. The commanding officer at the airbase testified that there'd been no damage there, and the women took the opportunity to cross-examine him about security, a line of questioning quickly stopped by the magistrates. The women's defence is that their entry into the base was justified in order to prevent the crime of genocide by the government. One of the defendants, who admitted tipping off the news media, said, "We had to take the image of the silos into people's living rooms. The government's contempt for our protest was so manifest, we had to do something." The case continues tomorrow. Joan Thurkettle, News at 10 at Newbury Magistrates Court.
In the United States, some communities have learned to live with cruise missiles at a profit. People in the town of Rome in New York State say their local missile base has helped the economy.
It's easy to love your local nuclear missile base when it provides 3,000 jobs and injects $283 million a year into the local economy, even when that base is equipped with America's newest nuclear weapon, the cruise missile. 5 B-52 bombers have each been equipped with 12 cruise missiles. Their targets have already been chosen, and the planes are on 24-hour war alert, which must have put the town of Rome, New York, on the Soviet Union's top 10 hit list. This fort was built by the British more than 200 years ago. Living on top of a military base is nothing new to the people of Rome.
We've lived here all our lives, and we just accept it.
You only got to go once, but I don't like it.
I don't think we're in any more danger than the people living in California. I feel very comfortable here.
Whether we are here, or 100 miles from here, or 400 miles from here, it won't make any difference.
There is hardly a person in Rome whose life is not affected by the base. Whether they love the base or not, the people of Rome have learned to live with it. John Suchet, News at 10 in Rome, New York.
There's an American satellite that's woken up at last and now talks in numbers as the numbers come. A report next. Plus, Mrs. Thatcher is 30...